Beach houses are supposed to be peaceful escapes, right? A place where the only thing you fear is getting sunburned. But what if I told you that behind some of those white shutters and ocean views, something darker is waiting? Every year, people disappear on vacation. Some are never found. And others come back, but they're never the same. You might think this only happens in movies. But the stories you're about to hear? They're not fiction. They're real. And they could have happened to you. These aren't just creepy horror stories, they're true stories. Stories of strangers hiding in closets. Of devices left behind like a warning. Of kidnappings under moonlight. Once you hear them, you'll never feel safe in a beach house again. And by the time this video ends, you'll wish you locked that window. The beach house was stunning, white exterior, panoramic view of the shoreline, and balconies that stretched toward the horizon. It was the kind of place made for unforgettable summer memories. 4 friends had planned the perfect vacation, sun during the day, parties at night, and peace in between. But in horror stories, peace is usually just the calm before the collapse. And this collapse would come fast, violent, and terrifyingly real. On their second night, they met 3 guys while walking by the waterfront. They seemed friendly, maybe too friendly, but after a few drinks and casual laughs under the stars, the line between caution and trust blurred. 3 of the girls agreed to go with the guys to another beach house a few streets away. The 4th friend, the narrator, decided to head back alone. She never expected to receive a panicked call only hours later, a scream she'll never forget. The voice on the phone was frantic, broken by tears. "They won't let us leave," her friend cried. "They locked the windows. They took our phones. Please help." The narrator's body froze. In seconds, the beach house transformed into a war room, lights on, phone in hand, dialing the police. She gave every detail she remembered, faces, clothing, direction. Her heart pounded louder than the waves. This wasn't just fear anymore, it was terror laced with urgency. The police moved quickly. Within the hour, they located a house rented under a false name. Inside, 2 girls were found, shaken, but alive. The men were arrested without resistance. They had planned everything, the encounter, the drinks, the isolation. It wasn't a robbery. It was a kidnapping, and it happened during a night that was supposed to be part of a relaxing vacation. A summer that turned into a waking nightmare. Trauma doesn't knock before it enters. The narrator never stayed in a beach house again. One of the girls started therapy for recurring panic attacks. Another couldn't sleep unless her closet light was on. The ocean, once a symbol of freedom, now reminded them of a stranger's hands, of a door that wouldn't open, of trust betrayed. But the most chilling part? These weren't just horror stories. They were true stories, and somewhere, someone else might be next. Now that you've heard these true beach house horror stories, what would you do differently? Would you trust that knock at the door? Would you still sleep with the closet open? Or would you double-check the locks, just in case someone's already inside? Maybe these stories felt distant, until now. Maybe they made you wonder if that strange noise last night was really just the wind. Or maybe, you're already thinking about your next vacation. Just remember, trauma doesn't ask permission. And evil doesn't care if it's summer. So ask yourself, how safe are you, really? Would you recognize danger if it wore a smile? These stories weren't meant to scare you. They were meant to wake you up. Because sometimes the scariest part of horror is realizing it can happen to anyone. If this made you feel something, even a chill, then you're one of us. You understand that not all monsters live in nightmares. Some hide in plain sight. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. You'll want to be ready for what's coming next. And share this video with someone who thinks their beach house is safe. Let them feel the tension crawl up their spine too. Because horror this real, isn't meant to be watched alone. The aftermath is often the part no one talks about. What happens after the police leave? After the device is removed? After the friends are safe again? That's where the real horror lives, in the quiet hours that follow. When the beach house is empty, but the memory of the intruder still breathes through the vents. When you try to sleep, but all you can hear is that creak from the roof. The story doesn't end. It just relocates into your head. These events leave permanent fingerprints on behavior. One survivor moved her bed away from the windows. Another installed cameras in every room, even the closet. Some never vacationed again. Others can't go near a shoreline without scanning for strangers. It's not paranoia if it already happened. Trauma doesn't fade like a summer tan. It sinks in, beneath the skin, behind the eyes, into the corners of every quiet night. Technology can't always protect you. Devices were involved in each story, from the mysterious walkie-talkie to the phone that saved 2 lives. But even with all that, the horror still happened. Locks failed. Walls were thin. What kept them safe wasn't hardware, it was instinct. That subtle feeling that something was off. And yet, how often do we ignore that feeling? How many horror stories begin when someone says, "I thought it was nothing"? These true stories reveal that evil doesn't knock. It slides in through gaps, in judgment, in trust, in routine. That's what makes them unforgettable. They don't rely on gore or monsters. They use silence. They use the familiar, a beach house, a group of friends, a summer night. And then they twist it. Turn it inside out, until all that's left is fear, breathing behind the closet door, waiting. So next time you're planning that dream vacation, remember, the most beautiful homes can hide the darkest truths. Just because you close the windows doesn't mean someone's not already inside. Just because the night is quiet doesn't mean you're alone. Horror stories don't always begin with a scream. Sometimes, they begin with a whisper you don't remember hearing. Yet, there's something deeply unsettling about horror that takes place in a beach house, a space meant for rest, laughter, and sunlight. When that comfort is corrupted, the trauma cuts deeper. Each of these true stories flips a sacred idea on its head: safety. Whether it's a break-in, a kidnapping, or an unseen presence, they all violate the unspoken rule that your vacation home is a sanctuary.
But something else entered with it.
That betrayal lingers long after the story ends. Vulnerability is the thread that ties everything together. The boy sleeping alone, the friends trusting strangers, the static coming from a device that wasn't theirs, all moments of exposure. These weren't reckless people. They were cautious, alert, even responsible. But horror doesn't care about that. Sometimes, all it takes is one unlocked window. Or one stranger passing by your roofline. That's how nightmares begin, with small cracks no one notices until it's too late. The fear that these stories generate isn't fantasy, it's realism. There's no supernatural monster here. No cursed object. Just ordinary people facing extraordinary danger, and that's what makes it so creepy. Because if it happened to them, it could happen to anyone. These horror stories don't just entertain, they warn. They plant seeds of paranoia in your mind, and once planted, they're hard to unroot. Psychological impact isn't always visible. But you can feel it in the way these survivors speak. How their tone shifts when mentioning a closet. How they pause when remembering a window left open. Trauma has a way of bending memory, of sharpening certain sounds or faces into permanent imprints. These stories prove that what haunts you doesn't always wear a mask, sometimes it whispers from the dark corner of your own mind. After watching, people often find themselves rechecking their locks. Listening more carefully to night sounds. Questioning whether that breeze really came from the ocean, or something else. These aren't just horror stories. They're emotional traps, designed to stay with you long after the screen fades to black. And if you think it ends there, you haven't heard what happened next.